Hi, my name is Minda Hartz, and I'm the host of Secure the Seat Live. Each Monday at noon, you get to have lunch with me and a special guest, and I'm so excited that you're here today. Make sure you go and grab a friend, a colleague, somebody who needs to hear today's conversation. We're streaming on LinkedIn Live and YouTube, so for wherever you are watching us today, we're just so happy that you're here because you could be anywhere on the internet right now and you're here with us. I'm so excited about today's guest. Karen Ortiz, the administrative judge at the EEOC. I am just honored to have you, Karen. How are you today?
I am great, and I am equally honored to be here with you, Minda, because for those of you who don't know, but those who do know me, I stand Minda hard. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, you're definitely part of my squad, and I thank you for it. But I want people to learn a little bit more about you, so I'd love them to hear it from your mouth. Can you tell our audience a little more about you and the work that you do?
Yes. So I work for the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and that's the agency, a federal agency charged with eliminating and preventing discrimination in the workplace. We do work in the private sector and also in what's called the federal sector. And I'm an administrative judge that deals with federal sector cases. So I will decide cases where federal employees or people who have applied for federal jobs are alleging discrimination on a number of bases. But the agency as a whole works around discrimination issues in both the private and federal sector.
Awesome. And I want to talk about this because I thought it was so important for us to have this conversation because there's so many women and men who are feeling empowered to be able to, hey, call out discrimination if they see fit or take it up to their HR, their managers, and doing those sorts of things. So I think a good place to start is, what is the EEOC and what are some common misconceptions around their role and how, I guess, employees can engage with them?
The EEOC was actually an agency that was born out of the Civil Rights Act. And initially, the EEOC was charged with deciding or dealing with employment discrimination around race and Equal Pay Act cases. The Equal Pay Act actually predated the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Then as time went on, the agency was charged with dealing with discrimination on a number of different bases. So it could be age, race, national origin, gender, religion, disability. Little by little, we started to adjudicate all of these types of cases or deal with all of these types of cases. I think there's two misconceptions, and they're like on opposite sides of the spectrum. So one is, that doesn't have anything to do with me. They can't help me. I don't know what that is. It's federal, boom. Mm-hmm. And the other side is, oh, they're going to come in and just solve all my problems. I'm going to get a big settlement if I just even make a claim with the EEOC that I face discrimination in the workplace. And we're really somewhere in the middle. So I can talk about the process too. So if someone feels that they have faced discrimination in the workplace on any of those covered bases, you have the right to come to one of our field offices or reach out online. There's telephone line too, and file a claim. Now, it can be a lengthy process, but every time you make contact and you want to file a claim, you're going to have contact with someone at the EEOC who's going to make a record of that claim, and so you're preserving your rights. And so it's available to pretty much everybody. Federal employees have a slightly different process, but they are entitled to the EEO process. Mm-hmm. So it's available to everybody, but we don't necessarily come in and swoop in and save the day. There's a lot of middle ground. There's a lot of things that need to be done before the agency will take a case to court or mediate a case.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that, Karen, and I love that you said it's kind of documenting your right? Creating your legacy on paper. And I was telling you before we went live that there was a prior employer that I had. And if you've read the book, The Memo, you knew that I talked about one of these places, and I had the worst time in my career at that point in my life. And one of my regrets is that I didn't document it with HR, and that I didn't or didn't know that I could go to the EEOC. And at least if it didn't benefit me necessarily, it might have benefited the next person who made a report or made a claim, right?
Absolutely. And, this is something, I think of preserving your rights as kind of like when you're taking a shower and you're remembering something somebody said to you, and you think of the perfect clap back, but it's like, it's too late. You're in the shower, you have shampoo in your hair. You can't go back on the street and go, give your clap back. So, I mean, you could in New York, but my attitude around that is preserve your rights. Even if you go to or you contact the EEOC, and you, at the end of the day, maybe you feel like you don't want to go that route, at least you've preserved your rights. Mm-hmm. Because in most cases, you have to make contact or file a complaint within 180 days of the discriminatory act. So it sounds like a lot of time, but look, we've been in a pandemic almost 180 days. So something that may have happened right before we went into this quarantine period, you may be out of time now if you go and file a claim. So my advice is to make contact, document it. And even if you don't move forward with the complaint, at least it's there. And like you said, Minda, it may bring up an issue to an agency or a company, and they may start seeing a trail, a paper trail or a complaint trail, and see an issue that they need to deal with. And maybe they'll deal with it, or you'll be the impetus for them dealing with something, and it will prevent other people from going through the same thing.
Yeah, thank you for that, Karen. If you have any questions that I don't know to what extent Karen can answer them on live, LinkedIn Live, but put your questions in the chat, and we'll do the best we can to give you the advice you need. But you touched a little bit on this, Karen, but what advice are you able to give to help women of color decide if it's time to get the EEOC involved in their workplace occurrence?
I think, Minda, in our conversation earlier, I was telling you about how, I've actually made my own complaints in a previous lifetime, and it didn't, one case in particular, it didn't benefit me, but I knew it was going to benefit a direct report at the time. So I had a foot out the door, but I was like, you know what, this is a problem, boom. I wish I had brought it up earlier. So I would say, whenever you get that gut feeling, just at least document it, write it down, sleep on it, and then if you wake up in the morning and you're like, no, this happened, I want to address this, you can go ahead and file a complaint. I would also, in that first 24 hours, look to see if your company, agency, organization has guidance in any employee handbook, or they have any guidance online with respect to filing complaints, if they have an internal process. If you're comfortable bringing it up to your supervisor, you can always go that route. And you can do all these things at the same time. It just depends on your workplace. If you have a really good relationship with those in your chain of command, if you're not at the top, then that may be a really reasonable, good place to start. But it's going to be very situation specific. But it hurts. It cannot hurt you to at least inquire about filing a claim. It will hurt you if you don't, and later on you want to, and you may have run out of time, or lost witnesses, or forgotten details that are really important when you're going forward with a claim. So I would say, trust your gut. I know. I mean, I know when something's like, that's not right. And if you have trusted colleagues too, I have my own inner employee resource group, my squad. And sometimes I'll run it by them, and then I'll get like reassurance, like, oh yeah, that's funky, if you feel like you need some shoring up. But don't wait. Don't wait. And I'll also say this, that the EEOC isn't your only option. Most states and jurisdictions have what's called Fair Employment Practices Agencies. They're known as FEPAs, and they work hand in hand with us. So if, for example, in New York State, you have the New York State Division of Human Rights and the New York City Commission on Human Rights. Both of those agencies also deal with workplace discrimination. And in fact, if you file a claim with the New York State Division of Human Rights, you are filing, it's called dual filing. For timeliness purposes, it's considered filed with the EEOC too at the same time. So, I would see what's available in your specific jurisdiction. And if there's a FEPA available and you go to that locality, your charge is going to be concurrently filed with the EEOC if you go forward, in most cases, with the exception, I think, of the Equal Protection Act cases. Equal Pay Act cases. I'm trying to will the Equal Protection Act into existence, with Equal Pay Act. There are a lot of resources on our website too. So if you go to eeoc.gov, it will break down for you the different types of discrimination, what FEPAs are in your area, how to contact us. And, if it's overwhelming, I would say just contact your local EEOC field office and we'll walk you through the process.
Okay. Well, I just am like, I hope you all are writing this down. Again, I hope that you are going to share this.
It's all on the website.
Go to the website, that too. But if you're going through a thing right now, you might consider contacting, I think you said FERPA or
FEPA. It's FEPA. You could probably just Google FEPA in whatever state you're in, and the Google results will tell you where you need to go. But for New York, it's New York State Division of Human Rights, and New York City is the Commission on Human Rights.
Okay. Well, we have that is buzzing. So let's take a couple questions before we finish our conversation, Karen. But the two I want to address, one is, if you do reach out to the EEOC, do they notify your company that you've made a claim?
Not right away. First, what happens is you will contact the EEOC, then you'll get an appointment for what's called an intake interview, and you'll speak with an investigator, and the investigator will walk you through the whole process. For private sector cases, though, eventually, unless it's a class action case, they are going to disclose to your employer that a complaint has been made, and usually that's in an effort to facilitate what's called conciliation, which is a kind of mediation. And that's actually what the agency prefers parties to work things out that way. So eventually, if you go forward with prosecuting a claim, it's going to be disclosed to your employer, because they do have a right to defend themselves, or if they want to engage in mediation or conciliation, they're going to need to know the details around what they're being accused of.
Okay. The other question that I have here is, how can you find out if your company has a history of claims?
I don't think we have. You can do what's called a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act request, and information for that is also on the website. If you go to our website, if you can't easily find it, you just put in the search bar FOIA, FOIA, and it'll give you the contact information. You might also just check, you could Google, but if you really want accurate information, a FOIA request, sometimes companies, as part of settlement agreements, are required to do postings, either on their website or in their physical space, saying that there's been a settlement. So any of those would be posted. We do also have press releases where almost daily that explain, what our latest settlements are, or cases are with private employers. You could also go to Westlaw if you are good with research tools and do a Westlaw search. But I think a FOIA search, if you just say specifically what you want, that's fairly easy information for the agency to compilate, and you have a right to that information under our federal law.
Yeah. Great questions. I love those. We're going to go back into our questions, Karen, but if you have one for Karen, please. I know we have viewers watching on YouTube and LinkedIn Live. We're so happy that you're having lunch with us. I know this can be a heavy topic, but I hope you're getting full on this, because this information is critical to our success as we secure our seat or find the right seats. And as we always talk about, leaving the workplace better than you found it. And sometimes it requires reporting some situations that have gone on. Karen, at the EEOC, there's a lot of resources. How can frontline managers tap into the resources, or even employees, based off of what's available to them on your site or trainings, et cetera?
There's so much on our website, and I think it can be a little overwhelming. What I would do, even though you might not think this applies to you, if you're a frontline manager or a manager, period, I think it's really helpful to go to our small business section. There should be a drop down, or on the first page of the website, on the landing page, for small business resources. There's a lot in there that you could easily translate to the work you do as a frontline manager. There's resources about what to do when you need to discipline an employee, where to go to when you're trying to figure out what your policy should be around hiring, around firing, all different kinds of things that apply to small businesses. Think of yourself as a small business. You're a manager, you have to manage up, you have to manage down. You need everything at your disposal. I've been a manager, it's really tough. So I would go to the small business section. Also, we have a training arm of the EEOC, our outreach arm, and we do a lot of free trainings. So if you look on the website also, you can go in the search bar and search trainings, and you can see there's contact information for the folks in our training unit that do all different kinds of trainings around all different subjects, and that's both in the private sector and the federal sector. And the folks that are doing the trainings are people from the agency like myself, who the training is part of their collateral duties. So they're in the subject matter. They're not just talking theory. They're going to be able to give you substantive information.
Go to the website. There's so much information. You all have homework today. Go to the website, eeoc.gov. Is that right? Yes, this is so important. And give this information, share this information, because, right now you're seeing online a lot of people are coming forth and airing out their grievances online, which is great. But as Karen told us, if you're within that 180 days, wouldn't it be great to file your claim and talk about it wherever you want to talk about it? But where is it going to make the difference? Not saying that talking about it on social media isn't, that may be what you need to get it off your chest, but knowing that there are other resources and ways to support you as you keep securing your seat. If you have any questions, please put them in the box. I'm looking at both chats on the stream, so I want to make sure that we get as many questions answered as possible. But Karen, I am a lover of grits and rap lyrics, and I have to ask you my bonus questions. Is just imperative here. What is your favorite rap lyric and why?
Okay, I'm a little old school because I'm a little older, and I'm a huge Queen Latifah fan. And during this pandemic, I have been comforted by pretty much watching 1 or 2 episodes of Living Single every day, every evening. So I'm going to say, keep your head up. What? Keep your head up. That's right. Whenever that life gets tough, you got to fight, with my homegirl standing to my left and my right, true blue. We're tight like glue. And that's
Queen Latifah's always on time. Yes. And I love this because, what does that mean? What does that stir up inside of you when you hear those lyrics?
Well, I'm one of two. I'm the middle of the three sisters. So I'm literally I always had a homegirl to my left and my right. So at the end of the day, I got support from the females in my life, and they are my source of energy, hope, support, everything. And so I know I don't have to look far if I'm feeling like down or I need encouragement.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Such a great line. I have to tell you, this is very embarrassing, but I'm going to share it with you all. I used to live in Los Angeles, and I was walking down the street on a Saturday to meet up with some friends for brunch, and I lived in Beverly Hills. Sounds much more fancier than it really was. But I was walking from my house to a brunch spot, and next thing you know, I saw Queen Latifah coming out of this store, and I was so like struck by seeing her that I hollered out, "Happy New Year, Queen Latifah!" And unfortunately, it was not the New Year's; it was more like spring, summertime. But I love that situation. It looks like for some reason it looks like we have Karen's screen froze, but we're going to keep going. I love the chat that we're having here in the session. Thank you all for your comments. I know Karen's going to log back in and we'll finish the conversation, but I'm curious. I see some of you, are you grits lovers? Is it salt and butter, or is it sugar? I myself am all about the salt and and everything, but we're going to bring Karen back on. You're back.
I don't know what happened. I think the internet didn't like my rapping.
They're like, no, they're like, we love Queen Latifah. They want to work when you say that.
Queen Latifah, just not you.
It was too much for them to handle, too hot to handle those bars. But I appreciate that lyric. And I have to ask you, we have so many leaders, and we're all leaders in our own right. We all have a sphere of influence. What is one tip that you would give our leaders on how to make the workplace better than we found it?
Be fearless. It's so scary sometimes to stand up and do the right thing or speak against the tide, but now's the time to do it. And we have the momentum of this movement behind us. So just don't be afraid. Just stand up and do the right thing. And I think deep down, we all know what the right thing is. And you're not going to, you think you're alone, but you're not. Yep.
Especially right now. This is our time to really lean into our courage and push aside our caution. So I appreciate that from you, Karen. I want to take a couple questions from the chat, from the audience right now. Someone wants to know, how do you handle making claims when you may have signed I'm paraphrasing, signed a contract at your job that you can't report certain things?
I'd have to look at the contract itself, but it sounds to me that it actually wouldn't even be enforceable. So I would say, if you think that you've signed something that's squelching your right to report, if you report it to the EEOC and you have an intake interview, they're going to walk you through that. They're going to help you through that in whatever jurisdiction you're in.
Okay. I love that. Then also, I know, why I have to tell you, Karen, why it froze on you, because I was telling my horrible Queen Latifah story and the computer's like, not right now, Minda, and it shut. So I'm glad I don't have to repeat it for you, because it was one of the most embarrassing times in my life. But we have another question here for you. Can you tell us a success story from a woman of color that made a claim through the EEOC, and maybe something that came out of that positive?
Well, I can't, because I do federal sector cases. Those cases are covered by the Privacy Act, but I can say that we have had successful claims that I've adjudicated with large money damages. That's really all I can say about the specific work I do, but you can also if you go to our press releases, every day we're releasing information about the cases we settle, and it will tell you what the company, the damage award, and the bases. So you can see if it was a claim, for example, a Black woman made a claim against whatever big company, what the settlement was, what the finding was. So that's really, you can find those. I don't know any off the top of my head, but every day we do press releases with that information.
Oh yeah, that's right there. So take a look, see what's out there. Use the internet. I see somebody in the chat says that they put jelly on their grits. I am judging.
Butter.
But we're all entitled to fix our grits the way we want. So if you like it, I love it. Karen, what you've given us so much to sit with. I know that my wheels are spinning even with the work that I do, and just how necessary we need people like you and just the EEOC as resources when sometimes we feel so isolated. What else would you like to share, just in kind of wrapping up the conversation, that maybe we didn't touch on that you think might be necessary for people to know?
I think you need to document things, even if they're just your handwritten notes. Sometimes that actually becomes pivotal in a case. If you can show that you've taken contemporaneous notes of something that's happened, those are your words at the time that this was happening. That's important. Keep a record, save emails. I know it sounds crazy, but anything that can boost your credibility or shore up the foundation of your complaint is really important and really helpful. And stand in your truth. Don't be gaslighted. Don't let people gaslight you. If you feel like something happened, you have the right to raise that. And it doesn't have to look like a full-blown lawsuit. It can be a meaningful conversation with your company or agency that makes change. I mean, sometimes people are teachable. I'm teachable. I've learned things from complainants that came before me that I didn't necessarily know. Particularly around disability law, what are good accommodations? What does this term mean in the context of a disability case? So we're all teachable, but just document, and be open to different avenues of getting the redress that you're seeking. And be empowered, and know that these agencies, the EEOC and the FEPAs, we're here to eradicate employment discrimination. So don't be afraid to make a complaint.
Yes, and I'm glad you too, Karen, that it's not just racial discrimination, but it's any form of discrimination, right, that you feel that's taking place in the workplace.
Yeah, even I mean, one of the biggest things we see is retaliation for the simple act of raising an issue, which really sucks. But that we address that too. Retaliation we'll address those at the EEOC, and the FEPAs address those claims as well. But most of the time, it's not just one thing, Minda. It's usually intersectional.
Yeah, that's someone asked about retaliation that I want to take before a couple people did. But what should people do if they do feel retaliated against in their workplace?
Document it, and you can always amend your claim to include a claim of retaliation. Unfortunately, it's horrible and unpleasant, but the EEOC we need all that information, and we need complainants to be really transparent and sometimes vulnerable, because you're going to have to share things that bring up bad feelings, but we need that information. And I have made findings of retaliation separate and apart. I've made findings where, say, a complainant is saying, I was discriminated against because I'm, say, Puerto Rican, and then they retaliated against me for filing a claim. I've made findings where I say, there actually was no discrimination based on race, but they actually did retaliate against you anyway. Mm-hmm. So just keep notes. Keep documentation, and know that you can amend a claim to include retaliation.
Thank you so much. I mean, I feel like we should all, drop you some money, because these were like pure.
Oh, don't get me in trouble.
I know that's not what we're supposed to do, but know that we're giving you lots of love for this information, because when we get this information, then we're able to pass it on to people we care about that could add this other tool to their toolkit. And I also just want to say how important it is that I'm very thankful that the EEOC has you, because you are a woman of color, and we need more of our faces in at every area of industry and government. And so I'm just so thankful to you and the work that you do. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has joined us today for this session. Karen, how can people find you and connect with you and work with you?
I'm on LinkedIn as Judge Karen Ortiz, and my social is Karen Ortiz ESQ, Karen Ortiz Esquire. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Just a lot of my accounts are private for because I don't want parties to find me really. But if you're really interested in staying connected on social, just shoot me a line and say, I saw you on LinkedIn with Minda. I'd love to stay in contact, and I'd be happy to approve your friendship or whatever it is.
People are just blowing up the chat saying thank you so much for this information, Karen. It's really great. Again, I just want to say thank you for joining me. This is very insightful, and I definitely feel in this climate, we really need this additional information to remind people that there are resources out there that you don't have to suffer in silence. And then lastly, I want to tell you all that I hope that you'll join me for the Memo experience. I am going on virtual book tour for the Memo paperback, which is 2 new chapters. It starts September 15th. I'm doing 6 days of an experience that I've been working really hard to bring a simulation to you. And so it's not just for women of color, but it's everyone, because I think we need to bridge the gap and bring people together. So it's in my on all my social media platforms. Tell somebody, tell your ERG, tell your managers. This is, if you need them to hear some things, bring them to the experience. And again, Karen, thank you for joining me for lunch. And to all of you, I will see you next Monday right here at noon on LinkedIn Live.